right. Again, everybody, I really appreciate you being here and thank you. It's day 60. It's Easter in Ukraine, and Ukrainians have asked for a ceasefire for Easter, and Russians have refused it because it's apparently not a sin to kill as long as you're fasting meat. So here we are. Things are continuing to escalate. I just found out that one of my nephews is actually, he was in one of the hot spots that you've seen on the news about, one of the little towns, Hostomel, Bucha, Irpin. He was in one of them, and now he's in a different one. But Alina and I are back. You can come and sit here with me. Come sit. And there is absolutely no way that I would be able to make this trip without her and without the support of my family and all of you guys. We brought Mom back. We weren't sure whether she's gonna make it once she got back because things got so bad, you know, when the adrenaline leaves your body. She lost 15 pounds, she passed out, she was sleeping 22 hours out of 24. So a thought has crossed my mind, okay, you know, something worse happens, which funeral home do I call? I mean, sorry, you know. But she's here, so let me tell you some stories. And in a way, it was, you know, when I first told you what we were going, I said this trip was going to be made with God, guts, wits, friends, and strangers. And the whole entire way, this is exactly what it was. It was insane. I would say it was fun, but this is not the word I want to use. But I want you to understand that so many awesome things have happened that if it wasn't the war, it would be a whole lot of fun. And Alina and I looked at each other many times and went, how can we be joking and laughing, but you have got to be joking and laughing, because if you don't, you know, you go mental. So on day one, when the war started, that one couldn't sleep. Nobody could sleep. I don't think I slept for 40 days. I don't think David slept for 40 days. He slept nothing while we were gone. So this one was drawing. She designed the dragon that you guys see, and she was helping us kind of iron the flags and do the fundraise and, you know, do all of that stuff. And then we figured out, okay, you know, we were waiting to hear when Mom will be evacuated. Will she make a decision to evacuate? Because it's scary. And she's 82. Two names before I continue. Two names I want to mention because you're going to hear a lot of them. One of them is Joel Brown and his wife Kata. He is an American who's married to a Ukrainian, and he's the one in Western Ukraine who runs the refugee receiving centers. His home is converted to where refugees are. He has like how many places now? Well, 2 houses that were given to me and like 2 or 3 buildings that they're converting. So the count that refugees are going at right now, it's not hundreds anymore. It's the thousands, because he processes them and some stay permanently. And another name is Andre. He is the driver who has been a minister to, his ministry is called Freeway Kiev. He's been evacuating people now from the hot spots and driving the supplies back from Western Ukraine to Eastern Ukraine. So you will see a lot of them here. So when I say Joel and Andre, David and I have known them for about 15 years. And without knowing that it was going to happen that way, those 2 guys have ended up evacuating and hosting my mom. And they're the ones that Alina and I went to see. So first of all is once we found out we're going, you guys started pitching in and we started getting all kinds of supplies, because we knew that whatever we bring, anything that we bring is going to be a huge blessing. And for that, I have to say a huge thank you. There was no gift small enough. One of my favorite ones was somebody who came in and gave me $6 and said, this is what I have, use it. And that's $6, you know, it buys thermals, it buys socks, and we'll have a story about thermals. So when this all started, things started to come in, and some unsanctioned living beings wanted to go with us. It didn't happen. We packed really, really fast because we didn't know which country Mom was going to be taken to. So literally, Alina and I sat and twiddled our thumbs because the way they were driving out of Kiev, they constantly had to listen, what's the safe way to go? Where is it bombing? Where is it shelling? Where do they shoot at cars? So we couldn't just fly out because it could have been Poland, could have been Slovakia, could have been Hungary, could have been, I don't know. So 2 days, it's a trip that should have taken about 9 hours from Kiev to where Mom was, to Mukachevo. It took about 2.5 days because they had to stop and wait, and they couldn't travel at certain hours, and, it just wasn't safe. Once we found out, we were here on Saturday, and we found out on Saturday that it was Hungary, so we bought tickets Saturday to fly out on Sunday. And we packed everything. We did not take the cat. He is still upset with us. He throws up very often. I am considering taking him next time, just to leave him there. I'm kidding. So you sent a lot of stuff. You sent a lot of good stuff. We ended up with blood stoppers and tourniquets and water filtration systems and socks and thermal underwear and gauzes, and I don't know half of those things. But here's some of them. Knee pads, dog didn't go either. Knee pads, we weren't able to get any bulletproof vests because it takes a lot, it takes a lot of money and a long time to get it, but we got a lot of good stuff. This is the stuff. And you know what was the first minor miracle is that we show up at the airport and we tell the guy what happens, that we're going, what we're doing, and he goes, oh, okay, you just have cabin luggage, right? And I go, and he does what?
He gives all of this to us for free. We had to pay for none of it. None of all of these luggage, all 4 of these huge, big чемодан, as it's called in Russian, or luggage, got to sit on the plane for free. So,
Yeah, he waives all the fees. Megan, we really like your suitcase. It needs a handle. It flies for free, and he upgrades us to Comfort Plus. That's the flight from Albuquerque to Atlanta. We paid for it from Atlanta to Amsterdam because, Comfort Plus was awesome. I'm going, oh, wow, Jesus, this is so good. Atlanta, Amsterdam, we end up in a row before adults and 4 lap babies with no leg room because there was some metal stuff stuck in there. So we fly for 8 hours like this. Doesn't matter. We got to Amsterdam, layover. We go to Budapest. This is Budapest. This is the first picture. I mean, nobody can move, An American family hosted us overnight because we didn't know, but we arrived on a day where it was humongous, like one of the biggest Hungarian holidays. Nothing works. You can't find drivers to go across the border. It's some kind of a huge holiday. So we had a chance to at least, take a couple of days to rest because we needed to find who would go, who would take us not even across the border, but to the border. Hungarians have a little strange relationship. Their president is very pro-Russian, and he was just reelected again. So a lot of people still remember the Soviet Union history, and Ukraine used to be a part of Soviet Union history. So there's still some hurt there, but the younger generation is very pro-Ukrainian. Like our taxi driver was saying a whole lot of stuff that she shouldn't have heard about Putin. But, yeah, Brad's all excited. Yeah, in the earlier days of war, I texted Alan and I said, well, as a Christian, do we ever pray for somebody to die? Asking for a friend. And Alan was like, well, not unlike some prayers I've been saying lately. So here, we do find a driver. Well, actually, this is the driver who was evacuating my mom. That's Andre, the bearded guy. At this point, Mom was already at the refugee center. We find a guy who is an American, but who grew up in Kiev for several years, and he actually speaks Russian and Ukrainian, and he was taking us to the border, but not crossing the border. So we're being driven, and it was like, how many hours? Yeah, about 3 hours, yeah, 3.5. 3 hours to the border. And the first scary moment comes is when you're approaching the Hungarian/Ukrainian side, and there is a block post, and they're all like with AK-47s, and they're dressed, and I'm like, okay, we're just, doing things here. He stops the car and he says, who's going? And we said, just, my daughter and I. And he says, well, continue to the border, which later we found out there was about half a mile plus minus to where the first block post to check passports was. Cars should not have been allowed to go past that first stop. But he let us through. If he made us exit at this point, that would have meant all that luggage was going to be walked a mile to the first passport check. But we arrive, and that guy drops us off, and some other man runs out and goes, you can't be here, car can't be here, car leave, you stay. And we're like, okay. So here we go. And that's Alina, and she is walking it in, and I have the other two, and suddenly we hear English behind us. Very proper English. And the very proper English catches up with us, and they turn out to be a team of 2 British journalists and an American setter with them. And they come up and they're like, guys, are you crossing the border? And we go, yeah. Like, is it safe? And I go, well, it's Ukraine. We're at war. What are you guys doing here? Turns out that their anchor ran away and unsanctioned crossed the border to make a live report, and he was making his team to come back and join them. So they were kind of scared, and I said, don't be worried, give me your passports, take our luggage. So they took our suitcases. That picture of them is actually the only picture I have of the guys, but we made really quick friends. They helped us walk our luggage across the border, and I think it was 2 posts on Hungarian side, then a neutral zone that you have to walk across, and then 3 posts on Ukrainian side, and you have to talk to everybody. And another miracle was that when we were preparing to take all this luggage, people were telling us, oh my goodness, they're not going to let you through, you will have to fill customs form and explain what's what, and I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with that. They said, you will have to get a diplomatic permission. I'm like, for what, for socks? And what are you going to do? They said, what are you going to do if they stop you? I'm like, I'm just going to leave it at the border, all of that luggage. What are Hungarians going to do with it? They're going to give it to Ukrainians anyway, and it's going to end up in a good place. Not one single question. Not a single question. What are you bringing? Where are you going? I think Ukrainian side asked, why are you guys going? But that was more out of interest. So we're getting my mom. Not one question. I mean, I could have brought, bazooka through that, which would have been very helpful, but I didn't have one. So we walk across, and the ride for the British guys does not show up, but ours shows up. So we take them to the hotel to meet their anchor, and they're kind of going, hey guys, can you do a live piece with us? And we said, well, sure, yeah, we can. We haven't, okay, here we are. But their anchor got busy. It didn't work out, blah, blah, blah. I'll fast forward now, but remember that moment. The British guys played a very interesting role later. Then we go, where's my clicker? Here's clicker. And then we make it. Here we are. We're in Ukraine. This is Joel's wife, Katya. This is the lady with iron fists. Couple of days ago, she and 2 more ladies that we met there went across the border, picked up some cars, military cars, drove them, because men can't exit. Remember, men between 18 and 60 cannot exit Ukraine. So the ladies did, and they brought the cars back in, and now the cars went to the army. And we went to the shelter. And my mom loves me, but she wanted to talk to David. That was the first. Yeah, my mom's in blue. Yeah. And, Alina's. Oh, and we walked in here. Tell how she didn't recognize you.
So I was walking into the building, and, I'm wearing this hat, and I'm wearing a big hoodie because it's cold. And her eyesight, it's going, I think she has cataracts in both of her eyes, and she can't see me really well. She can't see anyone really well.
No, she was coming.
Yeah, I was just surprised. Don't know if I was a wanted surprise or not, considering the situation, but, of course I was wanted. So I was going in there, and she was, first off, Mom called Babushka, and they were in the same room. So Babushka was looking for her phone. She picked it up and was like going, huh? A kto это? Who is this? And, she was shouting into the phone, and Mom was standing, right behind her. And so they were talking on the phone, and then she told Babushka to turn around, and she did, and she lowered the phone, and she saw Mom and started crying, and, it was a very wholesome moment. And after she had met with Mom and hugged her and everything, I said, hey, I'm here too. And she didn't recognize me. She was just like, привет. And I was like, do you not recognize me? But eventually, I'm saying that in a laxative term, but, it was really heart-wrenching because, she didn't recognize me, and then she did, and I don't know, that's about all I have to say.
Because last time she saw my daughter was, 4 years ago. We changed a little bit. So, yeah, and she did not expect at all that she was going to be there. And then, of course, right after this, where's David? What's David doing? I want to talk to David. And the way David looks, you can tell how David was doing. Because he didn't sleep. And later, he told me he didn't sleep. He was checking where we landed, where we drive. And he said, a mini heart attack happened is when there is no, once you reach the Ukrainian side, the internet is gone for a while. He said, there was 3 hours that you weren't showing where you were. So, yeah, it was rough. So we met at the shelter quickly, but it was going to take some time to find who's going to take us back. So we end up at Joel's house, and it's a good size house for a Ukrainian, separate home, not an apartment, but there are 27 people living at Joel's house right now. 17 of them children, most women, several men who are part of his volunteer team, and a truckload of cats, dogs. Each one of them now knows Alina. Because wherever she goes, it's the animal magnet. But there are 27 people. There's not a single stop, a time during the day, 24 hours. People are cooking, going, coming in, coming out. 27 people. You want 27 people in your house? Joel and Katya have 2 kids. Amanda is 10 and little Joel is 5. Amanda is sharing, she's amazing. She's the most amazing 10-year-old I've ever seen. She's sharing her life, her heart, her parents, her room, her toys with 16 more kids. And
it's a small portion, but yeah, she's trying to teach them English words, cat, dog, house, and in the middle of a wartime, I think that's pretty spectacular that she's still trying to do school with them.
She kind of okay, it's time to do school, everybody, and try to catch 16 of them. But that's what she's doing. And if there was a fun part, guys, that's the time when we open the suitcases and we dump it all out and we start sorting. And I think, right before we left, Malia brought us a pack of, what was it? Gummy bears. Yeah, gummy bears. And she said, remember the kids, because we weren't planning on bringing candy. We were planning on bringing, blood stoppers. And Amanda's like, oh my gosh, the gummy bears. So that was that. And Joel was like, put them in the bowl, hide them under the, I'm like, yeah, there's Amanda. Well, we'll see her a little bit more of her, but yeah, well, they got to play and do stuff, you know. This is Amanda's room with some of the kids in there, and that's a part of their kitchen where women and men cook all the time. That night when we were there, a guy shows up at like midnight and he goes, okay, well, I'm here to serve. And it's a pastor from Maryland. And Joel was like, well, okay, Amanda, you go in the second tier of the bunk bed to sleep with your brother. You guy go lie down right there. I mean, again, 27 people, everybody's sharing 3 bathrooms. And then outside at 3 o'clock in the morning, didn't happen. So here's the stuff. And there's Amanda, I think, trying to get candy. Yeah, that's the candy from Joel. Because kids will be kids, war or not war. Unless you're a kid who has not seen the sun for the last 50 days because they're locked in Mariupol, in that factory that produces steel. I watched an interview with those kids yesterday because, again, today is Easter and some soldiers came in and brought them some food and snacks. 50 days with no sun. While Putin is saying that only the soldiers are in that factory. No, it's not. And those kids just say, we want to go upstairs. Upstairs means outside because they're deep down. We want to go upstairs. And here's our Max. Remember before I left, I was talking about the defining moments of war, how somebody asks you to bring a hairbrush, and you just go, oh my gosh. We brought that hairbrush, by the way. Max is from Kiev, and he has come to Joel's house. I'll tell you why in a second, but he's military. And he walks in, sees all the stuff on the floor, and the first words out of his mouth, I've never heard a grown man be so excited, do you guys have any thermals? And we go, right here, do you think any of them will fit me? Yes. So you see the shirt, that's your thermals. Bottoms too, and socks, waterproof socks. Max came to Mukachevo to bring his 9 months pregnant wife. He came in that evening when we arrived, and he was leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning to go back. So on the photo, you see Katya, Joel's wife, and she's trying her hardest to talk him out of it for at least a couple days. She keeps saying, go at least see the ultrasound. And he's like, well, I've seen the ultrasound. It's a girl I know. I went to the first one. I went to the second one. Why should I go? And at first, when I'm watching this, I'm thinking, are you just being like a macho man? But he keeps, no, I have to go back. I have to go back. I have to go back. And they are, the enormity of tension in that room, guys, you could cut it with a knife. Because she is saying the right thing. Stay with the wife. Try for at least for a couple of days, see her settled, and he is not even here. He's already back. He says, I have to get back to my unit. She goes, well, what does one day a difference make? What does it? He goes, yeah, what if that one day makes a difference? God gave you the wife to take care of the family. Stay. I am fighting for a chance so I can have that family. There is no wrong. There was no wrong in that room. And at first I was like, yeah, stay. And then I go, no, he's right, go. So they're arguing. And Max is getting kind of more escalated. I thought you guys were going to bless me and just send me and pray for me. I'm like, yeah, we're going to do all of that. But there's Zhenya and the baby girl. And they ended up praying for them and respecting, because all you can do, you can respect that decision. It is his decision. It is his unit. It's his guys. It's his country. Whether he's going to come back to see his daughter born, you don't know. But at least he wants to fight for a chance to see his daughter. So Max was like, fine, I love you all. I'm going to bed because I'm leaving in the morning. And he goes to sleep. And at that point, Katya is exhausted. And it took Alina and me like 45 minutes to calm her down. She was crying because she says, I have offended him. Now he's mad at me. I'm like, no, nobody's mad at anybody. They talked and they're fine. Nobody's mad at anybody. But 6 in the morning, he left. He did leave. But at least there was no more tension. Because, what do? The guy is going to fight. You bless him and you go with him and you give him thermals and more thermals and whatever else. Oh, yeah, he took a bunch of blood stoppers. We separated something, so nothing stayed in one place. And then look who comes in. That's the driver. The driver who the previous day took my mom and left her there made an 18-hour run. This dude drives 18 to 20 hours a day. He doesn't stop. I don't know what kind of Energizer battery he has and where exactly it's placed, but he goes. That's the one we've known for 15 years as well. He comes in and he says, I'm just going to sleep. Load up and go back the next morning. What they're not saying, we're saying that he is taking supplies, humanitarian aid, food, and clothes, but he also takes military stuff back from the west to the east. We're just not, speaking a lot about it in there, but it's sort of known. So there's Andre, and we put him to work. Because man must make bread, not just earn it and eat it. And I don't know what time it is at this point. Midnight, 1 o'clock, doesn't matter. Next, that night, we're sleeping. Well, we're not sleeping, but we're lying down. Finally, everybody settled down. I don't know, is it 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning? I open my eyes, look at Alina, her eyes are closed, and then is an air raid. And I'm going, well, this house doesn't have a bomb shelter. We don't have a clue where the bomb shelter is. Oh, who cares? Let's try to sleep because we are exhausted. I thought you slept through it. She didn't. In the morning, Joel comes out, so you guys heard the sirens last night? I go, yeah. Well, okay, so they were the sirens. And the other guy is actually the man who showed up. His name's Mark. He's a pastor from Maryland. He is still there. He is still there. It's been a month. He'll be there until June. Then he'll come back in June and go back in July. He's just, doing stuff with kids. And he brought ivermectin, like a whole suitcase of ivermectin. I'm like, where'd you get that? He goes, I have my places. I go, share. Yeah, Alina's loading supplies into, that is Alina actually loading supplies into Andre's vehicle. The funny thing is, Andre, the driver, used to have a very small sedan where he could get maybe 1 or 2 people out at a time. But because of how fast we started fundraising for Joel and for Andre in the beginning of the war, that was way before we even knew that mom was going to be evacuated. They were able to get enough money to buy 2 large like 13 to 15, those big vans, like Swardson van, I call it, where you fit 13 to 15 people. At an amazing price. The Poles sold them. Like, you can buy a shuttle like this for $5,500. They bought 2. So that's the amount of people that's going back and forth. And every time it goes back. So Alina was helping them load. And we're just waiting. Yeah, something always breaks. Call it the iron horse, the red one. We have the red one and the white one. I'm not sure how good that Andre has the red one. And what he keeps doing, he keeps giving his bulletproof vests away. We've fundraised for about $13,000 worth of bulletproof vests. He didn't keep one. So I don't know. Next time we go, I think I'm going to glue one to him. something, because his 2 kids are 6 and 1, and right now they're here in Georgia staying with a family, friends of ours. His daughter just turned 1 and they need to see dad. So we'll glue it to Andre. Once we figured out that we have a driver, and we don't have a driver. The way things are done here, it's like minute to minute to minute. Joe comes in and he says, okay, you're leaving in 2 hours. We're going to go here first. We're going to go here first. And then we're going to pick up your mom. You have 10 minutes to get ready. Okay, well, we're ready. We just left the suitcases except Megan's. She did tell us we can keep. No, we tried to put food in there. They took our food. Yeah. No. It's big. So yeah, we it wasn't just mom. Mom, the other lady you see right there with her, it's a lady that my mom met here in Albuquerque 4 years ago, and once she found out that mom was leaving, she's also from Kiev. She said, can I go too? She also had an active American visa, and she has a family in DC. So I said, yeah, sure, at this point, sure. So I had 2 old ladies and a 16-year-old cat to get out. You see gray hairs? That's the cat. Every one of those hairs is Tyson. Yeah, is the cat. So that's why Alina was so critical to be there, besides the luggage and the cat and the grandmas. I mean, I don't know who is the iron horse, that red van or you. Seriously, this kid just rocks. I love you. I love all my kids. Daniel, I love you too. Ouch. Ouch. Okay, we'll have to have a conversation about that later. So we get out, you see the mats, right? This is the mats. This is styrofoam. This is where they are. This is Joel's church. Full with people up to the brim, and they break it down every Sunday so they can worship, and they put it back. And you see the little foil between the styrofoam. So this is how people sleep. This is what we're supporting, that people have a place to sleep. And he takes care of, he feeds them, he washes their clothes, he helps transport them out. Yeah, this is what it looks like. This is the church called Living Water Mukachevo that we're supporting, and by extension, so are you. Crossing the border. The last thing you want to do is to cross that border. Nobody wanted to leave. You're walking, you're being checked, and she doesn't want to leave. They asked for her to stay and said, can she stay? Can she help with the kids? Because again, 17 kids at one house, bunch of kids at the church. They have something called Rangers, kind of like American, kind of like Scouts, but some Royal Rangers. This is what it is. So there are a lot of kids. And I have considered it for a hot minute, but some other circumstances, and we didn't bring enough of her heart meds. So I'm like, no, you, and I need you because there's a cat and 2 old ladies. And an international, do not put me through this kind of suffering, child. So this is what we did. We crossed the border. They meet us on the other side. They feed you. We're driving through the shuttle, some kind of shuttle. Okay, and what we did, I tried to book an Airbnb because I have to take them all, wash them all. They've been in the shelter for 3 days. At this point, we all smell. We're all dirty. So I book Airbnb, but the host has 24 hours to confirm. And my host hasn't confirming. And we are in some car driving towards Budapest. We have an unconfirmed place. We don't know what's happening. So I don't know where I'm taking them. Suddenly a message pops on my phone, and that's one of those British guys. Oh, hey, do you guys think you're going to be back in Budapest by 9 o'clock to do a live thing with us? And I'm going, I don't know. I don't want to do the interview. We may be late, but interview Joel. So I give him the pictures, a bunch of pictures that you see. I give him Joel links, and he says, all right, you're pretty much saving our program because somebody dropped out. So we want to highlight Joel and what he does on British television. And you're saving our program. And I'm like, okay, yay, awesome. And then he goes, do you have a place to stay? And I go, well, technically, I have tried to reserve Airbnb, but I'm driving and it's getting dark. It's like already 8 or 9. No, it wasn't 9 yet. Yeah, it was 8. So I don't know. And he goes, well, how many people do you have? And I go, total 4. And he goes, how many rooms do you need? I guess, well, probably 2 rooms for 2 nights. And he says, oh, hey, our team has overbooked a hotel. We can give you 2 nights. And I'm going, Jesus. And will you take it? And I'm going, you know what? Honestly, I will, because it will save me trouble finding a hotel in a place where I don't speak the language. Hungarian is very different than any other Slavic language, and I don't speak Hungarian. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to, not everybody speaks English. And then the most fun part, I go, okay, my internet is about to go missing. Any motel will do. Where do you want us to go? And he goes, Hilton. There are only 2 Hiltons in Budapest. And one of them in this historic, every European city has a castle, a river, all of this, a parliament. So it's on a mountain, in a castle, overlooking the parliament. And you can't enter that area. It's like an airport. It has this thingy that goes up and down. You have to pull a ticket. So we pull up to Hilton. And we have to get a little bit intimate here, but none of us has clean underwear. We smell. We are just off the floor. And we walk in and there's marble. And concierge is like, welcome to Hilton. And we're like, night, guys. I've never seen this child be as happy to take a shower that night. So, Hilton. No, that's not Hilton. That's Parliament. But there was a real bed with real showers and real sheets. And your world gets adjusted in your head really, really quickly of where the priorities are and where the blessings are and where the luxuries are, and that you have, every one of us here has more than enough, than enough, than enough. You click really quickly. And they said, you guys, it's on the company. Make sure you do room service. We did room service, and there's Thyssen. It was hard on us. It was hard on grandmas, but, 16-year-old cat stuck in a carrier for hours and hours and hours. Well, I don't know who enjoyed that bed more. But yeah, that burger needed its own zip code. Thank you, British journalists, and ultimately thank you, Jesus. Because Hilton. I'm not going to tell you how we got clean underwear. None of your business. We did have a chance to go outside for a little bit. And that's that was Joel that night on the news with the anchor. So he is now famous. Oh, no, wait, that's a little too far ahead. Yeah, so we did that. That other lady's tickets were bought the day before we had to fly out. Because again, we arrived, none of the tickets, and that's why it was so crazy expensive, none of the tickets could be bought ahead of time. Because we didn't know where we were going. We didn't know when we were going. To fly out back into the States, everybody had to have a PCR 24 hours. So we PCR the lady, and 3 o'clock in the morning, we're taking her to the airport, and they go, the cat is not in the registration. She can't fly. And I'm going, right here on the ticket it says plant and animal fee, and I'm pretty sure this is not a ficus. they go, well, sorry, he's not in the registration. She can't fly. So they kick us out from the check-in and put us in some other booth. And we're standing there 45 minutes while they're looking for the registration, saying, no, the cat can't fly. She can't fly. Nobody at KLM is answering because it's a weekend and nobody cares. That's that older generation Hungarians that are not going to be helpful. And I'm getting gray hairs by the minute. Because either she stays, we all stay, cat stays, again we all stay. Oh, and the day before we had to take the cat to the Hungarian vet to do it, because you have to have a check on an animal from the country that you're flying out of. And he's like, oh, cat's fine, could use a little bit, more weight on him, but cat's being evacuated, so yeah. Gave him whatever he needed, some meds, some shots, charged $1. $1. He just says, you guys go do what you need to do. So again, I'm turning gray at the register, and finally the lady goes, well, where's the ticket been bought? And I go, from the United States. Call the United States. And it's 3:00 in the morning here. Nobody's picking up, but fine, it clicks, and she checks and it's KLM Delta. She checks Delta. Guess who's registered on Delta side, but not on KLM side? Thyssen. We go, yes, the cat flies. We go back to check in. They go, all right, now the PCR test for the lady, please. And they send us the results for her PCR in an email, password protected, in Hungarian. I can't open that email. And again, guess what? She can't fly. She needs a new PCR. I go, okay, let's go get a new PCR. More gray hairs. She's not flying. I go, guys, help us. Fine. I go, help us. Look, this is in Hungarian. They look, oh, she needs to put her birth date there in a certain order. I didn't say anything. So they enter that. She's negative. She can fly. She flies. So the next morning, the three of us were getting PCR'd, and we're like, please send it to us in English. I need English. So they did. We fly out the next day, and let's see, where are we at? Nobody wanted to get up. We're exhausted. At this, some of it, adrenaline is still there, but I couldn't get her out of bed. It's 5 minutes before we have to get into the taxi, and there she is, all packed though. All good. And for some reason, we go from Budapest to Istanbul, and then Istanbul to Atlanta, and it's a 12-hour flight. This is the most travel-loving child I've ever imagined. She looks at me at one point, she goes, I hate transatlantic. I go, me too. We're never doing this again. They fed us good. They did. Yeah, that rice. We should do this again. We come to Atlanta, and Mom has a tourist visa. On the tourist visa, you have a right to stay in the country for 6 months. But I've seen them, border has some authority. So I come and I explain the situation. I go, guys, can you do anything? And the first guy says, no, I can't, but I'm going to take him to my supervisor. So he takes us somewhere back deep into the official looking place in the airport. And the guy there, he goes, well, your mom's visiting, right? And I go, well, he goes, your mom is visiting. Right? At this point, I get that I think my mom is visiting because we all want to go home, right? He goes, yes. And because your mom is visiting, I can give her 12 months. Smack stamp. She has a 12 months instead of 6, and then he quietly goes, make sure you start looking into adjustment of status or something. He goes, if I could, I would go over there and fight now. the border guy. He goes, so you guys hang in there. So this is how we come in. We stopped in Atlanta with a friend of mine because there is no way she would have been able to pull this whole leg, Budapest to Istanbul, Istanbul to Atlanta, Atlanta to Albuquerque in one take. I mean, we were dying. I don't know what she ran on. So we stayed in Atlanta for a day or two at our friend's house, and somebody actually got the miles for us and got the tickets for us. Again, another story. Oh yeah, and about Hilton, those are the pictures that didn't go on Facebook, because when we see where we were staying, I said, oh no, that ain't going. People are gonna think we took their money and just did, all of this just for fun. So I was like, yes, they ain't going on Facebook. So you now know where we've been. And somebody gets us tickets on their miles from Albuquerque from Atlanta to Albuquerque. And we get home, and home we are. And that's David and Daniel, and here she is. And after that, of course, was the hard time, because she lost 15 pounds. She was sleeping. She was so weak. She passed out. David wasn't home. Alina was sleeping, so I'm holding her not to fall off the table, because she was sitting at the table, and I'm like, Daniel, knocking, calling Daniel, and the coldest and the closest thing that was within the reach was ginger ale. So I baptized Mom in ginger ale, and tried to bring her to, and all of it is hilarious and funny, but for the first time in my life, I think my hands were actually going like that. But here's what we are now. Oh yeah, and I don't know if you guys know that or not, but Jessica, somehow, somebody gave my phone number to a couple of channels that you should be talking to the reporters. And I'm going, well, if there is a chance to highlight Joel and Andre in their ministries, yeah, let's do it. So Jessica Garate actually came to our house and did an interview, and Mom happened to be awake at that moment. We were recording, and Mom comes out to go to the bathroom, and they're like, sit down, can we ask you a couple of questions? And she answered a couple of questions and was sort of crying, because the reason she's not here is she still gets agitated when she looks at some of those pictures. She just needs to, stay put for a while, a little bit more. And that brought more God stories. That little interview brought more God stories that, you can imagine. Back to Max. Oh yeah, wait. I gave it away because I thought my computer was going to be here and I knew what was coming next. I don't. Last week, Max's wife was due, and Max was still in Kiev fighting, when suddenly his division takes his unit and says, you'll need to go to Western Ukraine. So he calls 40 minutes out. He calls to his wife and he goes, hey, what are you doing? She goes, well, I'm okay. What are you doing? He goes, I'll be home in 40 minutes. Home right now is basement of Joel's house for the very pregnant lady. But oh my gosh, Max was coming back. Max got back. And 2 days later, his daughter was born. And there we have Max. And not only is he there, his unit is back, but his commander assigned him to stay right where he is to take care of some other army stuff. So he's the one who got assigned. And when he showed up at the soldiers' barracks, they told him, nah, we don't need you here. Go find yourself a place to spend the nights at and just come into work. So guess where he's spending the nights? There is our Max, and that is what you guys are doing. You remember the tourniquet? I think Adam brought those. Ooh, they fought for those. This is where the stuff are. This is some more. You see how Andre loads that poor iron horse? And he keeps going back to all those little cities that you guys see on the news. I talked to him several days ago, and for the first time in my life, I have heard him so discouraged. I said, how's it going? He said, do you want to hear the truth? I go, you always tell me the truth. And we have children in the audience, so you can imagine what the truth sounded like. But he said he shows up to one of these, not those kids, but one of these kids' families. And they're all gone. And their house is razed. There is nothing standing. But he keeps going, and he keeps bringing to the people who can't go themselves or move. With the money that we're sending, you're sending, anybody's sending. Because $5 goes a long way there. I haven't put too much graphic stuff in here, but the last few things that I want you to see, and I want you to remember it. I don't really need to talk. I know this guy. He's a good guy. They're all there. My friends are from that town. The lady who made this manicure recognized this shot when she saw it on the news. And she called this lady's daughters to tell her that she found her, because she recognized her work. Everybody's done reading this one? And now Alina and I are pretty much, oh my goodness. Alina and I are going back, most likely. Because the day before yesterday, the neonatal unit from Mukachevo, from where Joel is, has got in touch with us, and they said that they critically need things like gauze, sterile gowns, antibiotics, some machines that I can't pronounce but can be bought. Because the amount of kids that are there right now, the amount of pregnant ladies has tripled, quadrupled, and a lot of babies are preemies, and they need stuff. They asked us even for bedding. They said they have 30 rooms, and every room times up to 10 people gives you an idea how many people they have. So babies need stuff, and we're gonna go when we have the stuff to take. The tickets have been covered by somebody that we have met very, very recently. This time we will be able to get humanitarian tickets, and what humanitarian ticket allows you to do is to bring 3 large pieces of luggage per person for free. So that's 6 suitcases, but we're gonna push it and take 7 or 8. Because at any point, any day, it's still cheaper to pay $100 for a suitcase and fly it than try to ship it. And it's a very rare opportunity that you can deliver specifically to a certain place. because a lot of times you can donate for like general funds and it all is being helped. But specifically this hospital, specifically that neonatal unit needs stuff. That's why I will need to meet with some medical people and like gypsy some things, or ask where do we go to ask for things. But this is what's going on. I made my child cry. You're welcome. I love you. Oh yeah, if you guys want to at any point forward or do it yourself, or forward and kind of spread the word around about what Andre and Joel are doing, I will bring the links, or just, friend me on Facebook and I will send you the links, because it goes so fast. The money that we brought and gave Joel, okay, so we brought cash and gave him some stuff. You can't imagine how fast that goes. He picks up the phone and he goes, all right, let's get bunk beds so we can get the little kids up on top and the elders off the floor, so they don't have to sleep on those styrofoam mats. I mean, I can describe, but things are needed. Things are needed every moment. If you have the money, we will take them from you. If you know somebody who has the money, we will take them from you. If you have supplies, we will take them. If you know somebody who has supplies, we will take them.
Yeah, so the news article with Jessica, if you Google KRQE, it's Channel 13 News, so KRQE Ukrainian woman, it'll take you right to the YouTube video. It's about 3.5 minutes long, the news segment. But then if you go to KRQE News website, that's where you'll find the links to the giving. You'll find a link to Joel's Living Water, and you'll also find a link to Without Excuse Endeavor Freeway Kiev, which is Andre's link. So if you want to donate to the nonprofits, that's the way to do it.
Yep. Do you guys have any questions? How quickly? They're getting it within seconds. The links, if you donate to their links, it's kind of like, it's not something PayPal-ish. But yeah, they get it within seconds. All right. Again, profoundly, hugely heartfelt thank you to every one of you for helping. Eugene wants to say something. What? Over the last 8 years, when the conflict first began in 2014, U.S. has been quietly helping Ukrainian officers train. Sometimes quietly, sometimes not very quietly. The reason I know is that one of my friends who has been at war from day one, he's also a military interpreter, and he has been to Albuquerque several times a year with teams of Ukrainian officers training at Sandia in the base to protect the nuclear objects. He has been to this church. He considers this his home church when he's here. U.S. has provided a lot of help without getting into politics. We could say the administration could have done better processing, doing something for Ukrainian refugees, because people were so desperate they were actually they were escaping Ukraine into any European country. Then European countries, they were flying to Mexico and crossing the borders at Tijuana and Juarez to receive a humanitarian parole. Biden shut it down the day before, on Thursday. He just said, because before they said, we will process 100,000 refugees, but we don't know when. This is why that guy at the border, when we flew in, he said, something is brewing, but nothing has trickled down to us on an administrative level. That's why your mom is visiting. Could U.S. do more? Yes. But I have to think as an American and as a Ukrainian alike, because I understand the hesitation of the U.S. I don't want the bombs and the little crazy man with a red button to be doing things here any more than he's doing things there. So my American says, protect our boys. And my Ukrainian says, my boys are dying. As Katya put it yesterday when we were talking about the neonatal units, she says, half the nation is fighting to keep the country, and another half is birthing babies so they can populate the country. Well, COVID and all that. But yeah, could U.S. do more? Yes. Is U.S. doing enough? Yes. There is no. Yeah, we need the help. We need every help. But you know what? Getting absolutely away from U.S. and to United Kingdom. Oh my gosh, I love Boris Johnson. That's the dude who... We have children in the audience. I'm a Christian, but I cuss a little bit now. Every Ukrainian does. Because it's day 60 and it's Easter. Thank you, guys.